I've watched Love, Death, and Robots before, but I hadn't finished the entire thing. I've watched Sunny's Edge, I've watched the bit with the robots walking around in a post-apocalyptic world, and, I'm pretty sure I watched more, but nothing really stood out to me the way Sunny's Edge did. And I didn't finish it, because apparently now I found out that Netflix randomizes the episodes depending on the user or if you haven't watched it in some time. So when people were saying that Sunny's Edge was one of the last episodes, and I was saying it was one of the first 2 or 3 episodes, everyone was confused. Now I know the truth. So when I went back and saw Love, Death, and Robots was on, and there was a new season coming out, I decided to go back in and watch some more of the episodes. And what came up first was Aquila's Rift, or Beyond the Aquila Rift. Wow. When I say that this story hit me in the kneecaps, it hit me in the kneecaps. I have so many questions, and that's exactly what I like. I like something that gives you an ended story, but leaves you asking questions and wondering. So the show starts out in a space setting. It's beautiful scenery, and the CGI is just so beautiful to look at. You feel like you're actually there. You look at a freight spaceship called the Blue Goose, heading towards a surge point gate. Apparently people are using this to warp to different parts of the galaxy or space. I've never seen this before. Like, I never actually seen them in traffic waiting to go through a warp point. We meet our Captain Tom and his comrades, Ray and Susie. They're prepping to enter the gate. Stargate. I'm kidding. Sorry. What they're essentially accomplishing here is faster than light travel. They get into their tanks and prep for travel. And as they do this, they tell the AI on the ship to take care of them and to be gentle. And then they wait till they arrive. However, when they go through the rift being dispatched by a station, or basically what is essentially an airport called Archangel, everything is fine until they cross over. Tom wakes up to see that there's a system error, red lights blinking, and Susie wakes up as well. To their dismay, they realize that they are far off course, not where they expected to end up, and are docked to a repair facility. Tom tries to figure out where they are. He says he doesn't recognize the station, and right there and then, a team of people come out to escort them. Greta appears to be Tom's old fling from many years ago, and she tells him what the deal is. Apparently there was a routing error in the ship's navigation systems, and the Archangel dispatch must have had a glitch in their syntax launch patterns. Susie is just beside herself, and she's a great actress, the voice actor. She says it can't be possible, but she stumbles a bit due to the sickness that some people get from traveling that fast, and Greta and Tom agree to let Susie go back to sleep while Greta shows him around, saying that he'll only be with her for a few weeks. Greta and Tom rekindle their own flame. There's an erotic scene that shows almost everything, but then Greta also tells Tom the real truth. After calming him down by giving him the old puss-puss, Greta confesses that she hasn't exactly been, well, honest with Tom. You see, they're not actually in the Shadar sector at all. The routing error actually took them much farther away than he thought. She pulls up a holographic map, shows that that's where they are, and that is where Earth is. They're not even within the Milky Way galaxy. This, of course, is very disheartening. Greta says by subjective time, Tom and his crew were only in their tanks for a few months. But unfortunately, hundreds of years have passed on Earth. So even if there was a way to get back, it wouldn't be the Earth he remembered, and all the people that he knew and loved, kids, wife, are long gone. The sad part is that they're stuck there. Tom, of course, is very mad. Greta tries to calm him down, telling him that it's okay, that they're together. The first thing I'm thinking is, okay, this bitch is psycho. But as the show goes on, or the episode goes on, you see that she's only trying to comfort him, because there's really nothing they can do about their situation. They have no control. He asks her how she got there, and she says, well, I got here just like you. I'm stuck. Just like you. Can you imagine how heartbreaking this must be? I've never thought of something like this happening. People who come from an advanced society or a time where you can have faster than light travel, but because of a glitch, you end up 150,000 years away from your home. Sorry, 150,000 light years. I don't know how much faster than light they can travel, but let's say you shave off a considerable amount of that time. So now you can get there in 1,000 years. Humans don't live for that long. At least it doesn't seem so. I'm not really sure why they're not able to chart a course back, why everyone gets stuck there, but this place is essentially the Bermuda Triangle of space, or one of them, and it's very sad. Greta tells him he should try waking up Susie, and that's when the shit hits the fan. That's when things get really creepy. You see, Tom tries to tell Susie what's going on, but he tries to break it to her very slowly. until Greta comes in the room. And oh boy.
Who is she?
That's Greta, Susie. You met her before, remember? Years ago, it's Helen.
Tom! That's not Greta!
You got tank sickness, Susie.
What's going on, Tom?
Relax.
Are you? What the fuck are you?
It's okay, Susie. It's...
Unfortunately, they're not able to calm Susie down, and when Susie attacks, Greta has to stab her with a needle to put her back to sleep. Having gotten a cut on her neck, narrowly escaping a worse injury, Greta just tells Tom that they'll try again later, as many times as it takes. However, when Tom is lying in bed with Greta, he looks over at her neck and realizes that the scar, the cut that she just sustained, is no longer there. He deduces that, Susie might have been right, and he asks Greta what she is. Now at this point, Greta is sad and comes clean, and says that he is an assimilation, and she is the one feeding him the simulation, and he does not want to see what reality's like, but he demands to know. He wants to know what she is, and where he is, and what's going on. And this is the part that drives home to me. Not just them being lost in some Timbuktu somewhere in space, far away from their galaxy or from Axe's home, but the what else is out there. It seems as though, based on his reaction, that humans probably haven't found other aliens or complex life forms. So when they're freaking out about what are you, you'd think that this wouldn't be a big deal. They would probably say something like, what species are you? Or what race are you? Because aliens, wouldn't be a surprise to them. So my guess is they've never seen other things other than humans and their regular animals before. The fact that she's capable of feeding him assimilation also makes him terrified. Greta tells him that she cares about all the lost souls that come here. She does care about him. She told him that he's not ready to see the truth. And she's sad because she knows it's gonna hurt him, but he demands to know anyway. And oh boy, shit gets real. Like literally for him.
I care for all the lost souls that end up here.
Whew, I got chills at this last part. Woo! Good grief. Man, I was stressed. Ah, man. Yes, sir. So Tom wakes up and he sees the reality of his situation. That he indeed was in a simulation, but not just that. He's grossly emaciated. Susie looks as though she had died recently. She's also emaciated. So it means that these guys have starved to death. Ray looks like he had been dead a long time ago. And there are these slimy web things all over the place. Of course, he's like, what in the frickety frick is going on? The realism that they show with even how his face looks. You can see his chest, his rib cage is showing through his chest, which means he's close to death. The music ensemble that's used here is just wow. He's literally a walking skeleton, and the doors are cracked open, and I think the reason why that web stuff is around, it's probably insulating the area and making this place breathable, which is why he's not suffocating right now, because he's in space. When he is looking out, at the top left-hand corner, you can see spidery legs, and at this moment, as the watcher, you're like, what the frick is happening? It's starting to feel a bit like Dead Space up in here. So now that Tom has seen what is really going on, now it's time for him to meet Greta, and oh shit.
Hello, Tom. Hello, Tom. Hello, Tom. Hello, Tom. Hello, Tom.
At first we're thinking, okay, this is a big-breasted chick coming towards him. Something humanoid, clearly with the way the light is hitting it. And we know that Susie is not going to be, sorry, not Susie. We know Greta's not going to be what we expect her to be because she was telling him, you're not ready, you don't really want to see me. And we're like, oh boy, what do you look like? And then we're completely psyched out because what we previously thought she was turns out to be something so far different that I can imagine how Tom must have felt in that moment. Should have listened. You should have listened. Well, the old question of whether or not, if you found out you were in the Matrix and you found out the real world was really bad, would you want to live in the real world or would you want to keep blind? Seems to be that age-old question. Like every time you exit the Matrix or you realize that the world is not as nice as you once thought and the blinders are being put over your eyes, not to mention the people who are hostile towards you, like the senses, are only that way because you're trying to ruin their illusion of total peace and harmony. It's easier to just stay quiet and pretend nothing is happening because that's the way that they they can get on with their pitiful lives. However, in this case, when there is absolutely nothing that he can do about a situation, doesn't it make sense to live in a matrix? So in the next scene, we see what has transpired before, and at first I was thinking maybe it's all a dream, but no, it turned out not to be a dream. Maybe he knows it's a dream, maybe he forgot. Because Susie woke up the second time, and she seemed to have already seen the alien spider in its true form, which is why she was so hostile towards Greta. She already knew that wasn't Greta, because she probably already saw reality. Maybe it's because she's more of a logical mind, and people who are more logically minded, have more analytical minds, seem to not be as predisposed to suggestibility as people who aren't of the same kind of mind are. You'll notice that people who are really great with logics and mathematics are highly analytical and skeptical. It's not easy for them to get to believe in things like gods and superstition. And people who are more artsy or imaginative or creativity based, let's just say artsy, those guys are more able to put down the reality and believe in imaginative stuff. So people like me have stronger right brain functions, and people like my partner have stronger left brain functions. It's not that either of us can't do the other, it's that there's one that we're much better at. Susie's probably strongest in this hemisphere since she's responsible for the computer work, which requires a lot of analytical thought, logic, reasoning, science and math, and number skills. So she more readily would see things exactly as they are. Her brain simply doesn't work that way. She couldn't fool herself into believing this simulation paradise even if she wanted to. And that's what caused her to freak out. Anyway, when Tom wakes up, it seems as though he has forgotten everything that happens. Greta comes through and she looks as though she is pained. She greets him with a pained expression, because obviously she remembers the pain that he just experienced. And being a telepathic creature, it is possible that she feels the pain that the people she's linked to mentally feel. And then we see the truth about where Tom actually is, where she is, and it seems as though Greta, or the space spider, was telling the truth that she indeed was stuck here too. And it's possible that all the debris that we're seeing all over the place are not rocks, as you can see here, and there, when reality phases in, and we get to really see what is really happening, to our horror, all those debris and rocks that we saw are actually so many ships and crafts that got stuck there, right in that area. And the reason why there's webbing around all of them is because she probably tried to keep them alive as long as possible. It's possible this creature breathes oxygen or generates oxygen. I'm not really sure how that works. But it's clear that Tom had been in this simulation or been alive for many months, as she puts it, because of how long his hair is. I don't know about him, my hair grows about an inch every month, so he could have been in the ship for about 7 months when you factor in how short his hair was versus how long it is in this scene. He also had to have been getting some form of sustenance. It's clear that their tanks aren't working anymore, so it's possible that the spider thing was feeding them. What was she feeding them? I don't know, but it clearly was enough that it could keep them sort of kind of hydrated, but not fully healthy in terms of nutrition. You see that he's very emaciated here, and it's clear that he hasn't been eating well. He has no muscle mass whatsoever, so his body's been eating itself. And as the spider creature comes into the light, we can see that she has slimy stuff coming down from her body, but it's clear that this creature can generate water, and that's probably what she's been feeding them. Now here's the big question. A lot of people were arguing about this, and I haven't seen anybody who has really said or answered this, and they want to know if the spider is actually a benevolent creature or not, because it's possible she could have been feeding off of them and giving them that fantasy so they wouldn't feel it, but that doesn't seem to be the case because they would have been dead already. She probably had to open their tanks to have access to it so that she could feed them. It's possible that she doesn't really even need food in the way that we do. And so she was probably feeding them her mucus or whatever the hell it is that she makes inside of her body. She has a mouth, so clearly she eats. But she said throughout the story that she did not want to hurt them, and she deeply cared for the humans. Maybe she feeds on their bodies after they're dead, but it doesn't seem as though any of them were disturbed. Susie was still in her tank, Ray was still in his tank, and all of them were still exactly as they were when they were put in there. Susie and Ray are all bones, and they look mummified, which means they've been dead for a while. Either that or Susie had been very starved. Now, as to why the glass is cracked, maybe the spider cracked it because after the ship stopped functioning, they wouldn't be getting enough oxygen. So she probably cracked the glass so they could keep breathing, and so she could have access to them to feed them. There are no puncture wounds or marks on them. So unless she turned them over to get access to their back to suck them from there, and then turn them back over to lie on their back, that doesn't make any sense. She wouldn't have expected any of them to wake up to see reality, so she wouldn't have been so concerned with making them look exactly as they had been. I think she really is a benevolent creature, and she was not feeding on the humans. She probably doesn't need to feed on the humans. After all, she's a totally different creature. Like I said, probably doesn't have the same biological processes that we humans have. If she does eat, maybe she doesn't need to eat for many, many centuries. But what's clear is that she did care about the lost souls. Enough to keep them alive as long as possible, but keep them as comfortable as possible. This creature is very interesting because she's telepathic, a creature with very strong psychic powers that she's able to put people into a simulation, access their memories, and things they know that they would like so she can make them happy. She's essentially a hospice nurse for these humans that are stranded with nowhere to go. She wouldn't want them to feel in turmoil or the effects of starvation and torture as they wait in this horrible place, the way that she probably feels being stuck there herself. So like an angel, she feeds them a visual. A lot of religions claim that angels are actually terrific beings, and if you really were to lay eyes on them, you would be terrified out of your mind. So they assume a friendly face or form so that you're more able to listen to them, something that you would see as beautiful. She kept them alive the best way she could with what little nutrients she could give them and kept them comfortable. Man, this was horrible, but I think that's the actual answer based on the information I can see in the episode. So if you guys haven't watched this, you're still here, you should definitely watch it. It is so wonderful. It's a beautiful work of art. I am so glad that I saw it. I can't believe I never saw it before, and I'm going to be going through the rest of the episodes for Love, Death, and Robots. I kind of like these bite-sized stories. They feel like creepypastas to me, and I can't believe that something that was 15 minutes long was more impactful to me than a lot of these Hollywood movies that are like an hour and 30 minutes. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.